What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Paddock, a Formula One podcast. My name is Ray, and with the first race of the season under our belt, a lot has changed from the rules, cars, drivers, and we've got a new pole leader after Bahrain. We've got a lot to discuss, so let's get into it. As always, I'm joined by Pete.
Morning.
Will.
Hey, guys.
And Gio. What did you think of that first race, man?
Man, well, what a good one. I think it was the perfect first race of the season. In my opinion, it had enough drama. One of the better, duels I've seen in a long time. Up between Max and Charles, like middle of the race.
Yeah.
I forget which laps these were, but that was really exciting. That like back and forth for a little while between Charles and Max. I was like on the edge of my seat. Like I don't remember seeing a lot of that last year, because it would either end in disaster or or just people would be so far away. But for me, I think the perfect race, a lot of late race drama, and I think people called this with Ferrari. They were supposed to be the contender. I wasn't on board initially, but just seeing Carlos and Charles just run a perfect race. Granted, there were some things that worked in their favor towards the end, but especially for Carlos, and I had a little bit of everything. And Mercedes, lucky buggers, somehow still ended up on the podium, which
was all engineering.
Not expect. Yeah, they planned. They knew what they were doing. In my head,
strategy.
In my simple-minded new F1 fan head, I pictured someone in the Red Bull garage in front of a plug and just pulled it for both of the cars. They just, like
Bottas, you owe us one.
Yeah, something happened there. But I know, great race to kick off the season. I'm just excited to see what the next couple races hold for us. My disappointment was in McLaren, and we can go into that a little later, but I was shocked to see how bad they did this weekend. But fingers crossed that it changes up. Will, how do you feel, man, after race one?
Oh, nothing like the first race of the season to get you pumped up. And, look, come on, let's all admit it. We know why Ferrari's doing well. It's because they have black spoilers. It's going to be an ongoing theme every episode. They win the championship, it's all about those black spoilers. They say that red cars go faster. I disagree. Red cars with black spoilers go faster.
There it is.
Classic.
There it is. It's happened. Look, what a race. It is so good to see Ferrari back up there again. I love seeing Max and Charles battle it out. They are really good races together. They're honest. And I think it was last year or the year before when they were battling in Silverstone, and same thing. They were corner for corner. It was just absolutely fantastic. So if that's a sneak peek of what we're going to see this year, fantastic. Bring it on. Bring it on. I did a couple of little bits and pieces which blew my mind. Ferrari, as we mentioned, so in the top 10, 5 cars were Ferrari-powered cars, which was pretty huge, and only 2 were Mercedes engines in the top 10. Here's the 2 interesting facts. Only 1 Red Bull powertrain in the top 10, and that's because of reliability, as we know. But the wow factor, of the remaining 7 cars out of the top 10, 6 of them were powered by Mercedes engines.
You mean the bottom 10? The what
did I say?
Top.
Oh, the top. No, sorry. I'm sorry. So 11th to 17th, they were all Mercedes powered engines.
Top of the bottom.
Yeah. So, that was a crazy
Folds hat.
That's probably down in shame. Magnussen 5th. What can I say? Haas first points in over a year. Oh my God. Zhao Guan Yu, the fact that he got that's right. Points in his first race. I mean, that's fantastic. And the truck awards go to McLaren, Williams, and Aston Martin at this moment in time. So what can I say? Pete, hit us.
All right. One interesting observation I had was Charles played Max like a fiddle in that battle.
Mm.
He did not go into 8th gear down the main straight. He kept it in 7th, braked early, got good traction out the first and second corner, and then went full pelt down the next straight in DRS zone to get the overtake done. And Max tried it 3 times.
Strategy, man. Strategy.
You know, the Ferrari engine has got power by spades. Another little interesting observation, the tyres are meant to last longer, but because the cars are heavier, they were going through them. But they didn't have this big cliff like they used to. You know, it's more of a gradual wear out opposed to all of a sudden no traction whatsoever, which was helpful for the exciting racing. K-Mag, what a comeback to F1.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he qualified well. He kept his nose clean. He hassled Hamilton in the early stages and then got home the points. His teammate Mick, though, was unlucky. He got pinged by Ocon. Spun around first lap, did a 360 spin, kept on racing, and then he got hung out to dry at the restart. They tried to keep him out on his old tyres to try to get some extra points. Didn't work. Everyone else was on fresh rubber. They overtook him. One thing as well is Mercedes weren't able to get the maximum performance out of the car because they were running a higher downforce config. Sorry, higher rod height. So I've actually got a little image if I can find it.
Yeah.
Here it is, coming up on the screen now.
Let's see.
You know, you can see there, like, their car's running hard because of the porpoising. Rumour has it they've got an update coming for the Australian Grand Prix, which may rectify it, but they can't wind tunnel test it. Wind tunnels don't show this data. So the only way they're going to be able to find out this one is on the track. And Australia's going to be a really good test for these cars because Australia's a hard track to follow one another.
And they've got a lot more data on Melbourne versus
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia in the next race. Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, one thing with Max I thought it was interesting is he kept trying to overtake on the start-finish line, but when he got to the next DRS zone, he was in front, so he didn't get DRS. I was very curious to know whether he was going to not overtake in the first DRS zone and then try, the second bit where Charles kept getting him. But I don't know. I was just trying to think, whether he could have done that, but obviously, things didn't eventuate.
What about you, Ray? What were your thoughts over this race?
Oh, I mean, I'd have to say, first of all, that all of the cars look gorgeous on the track.
100%.
And it was just a treat to watch. And then, like coming in from the Netflix series, I have to say it was just a joy to see Gunther happy. I don't know, like, I feel like next season his story arc will finally like come complete. And then he can move on to something else.
I mean, yes and no, because if it's just this one race, that story arc is going to be horrible.
I'm sure Netflix will find a way to make it spicy, though.
Yeah. They're going to give him one like smile at the end, something. But it was so exciting to see Charles and Max go at it. It was like lap 17 through 19. They were just going back and forth. And I just think that was just a treat to watch. Like I said, Ferrari has been low-key my dark horse pick. I'm still Mercedes at the front, but it was just beautiful to see that car winning. And then I've been following Charles on Instagram for the past few years, so it was just a treat to see him win as well. I'm curious to see what's going on with the Mercedes. I read that Toto said that the cars are also the heaviest. I don't know if that... Maybe I don't know what they're playing.
I think what Pete brought up earlier. I think all I'm hearing is about the porpoising, right?
Okay.
Which I mean is not just affecting a Mercedes, but I think across the board. But I think Mercedes is feeling it so much more because of maybe let me know if I'm wrong because of how heavy their car is in comparison.
It's down to their new side pod design or high pod as it's being jerked around the paddock.
Yeah,
that's causing additional downforce, which in turn is causing the car to bounce up and down the back straight. I've actually got a little image here for those watching on YouTube. So this is how a ground effect works. The air flows underneath the car and the air over the top of the surface of the car pushes it down. The issue is As it builds up pressure and downforce, the bottom end bottoms out, causes it to stall, and then the car goes back up and then goes back down again quickly, and it just repeats, so on and so forth. And it's very bad on the Mercedes.
Oh.
Now, they can make the suspension stiffer, but then they've got poor cornering.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got to find a way to make it work aerodynamically. And as a result, they're just struggling at the moment because they have to jack up the height of the car. The only car that actually made the original target weight of 795 kilos was Alfa Romeo. Everyone else was heavier, so they increased the weight for this year to 798 just before the Grand Prix.
Now, realistically, I think going into the next races, race or few, right? You know, we talk about our disappointments. Like it was such a shame to see McLaren so low, right, with this beautiful car, right? Ray said, I mean, seeing these cars on the track for the first time, you know, the first race was beautiful, right? But it was such a shame to see such a beautiful car in McLaren with the chrome, Google Chrome wheels. Hey, come on. With the Google Chrome wheels finish so low. But you guys tell me, how realistic is it for a lot of these cars to make improvements between race 1 and race 2? Like for McLaren, that has a couple small, you know, they're still there. They, made podium, and Russell was 4th, right? But we can say a little bit of luck helped them. How realistic is it to say that a couple of these cars with their issues are able to fix a dramatic amount by race 2? Is that something that can happen?
Well, I think we saw it a bit last year towards the end of the season that, you know, arguably Red Bull was dominant for the majority of the season. And then as the season went on, the last few races, the Mercedes was getting faster and faster. So through a season, absolutely, there's lots of development that can happen. Between one race, in my opinion, I don't know, they've really got to know what the problem is to be able to address it, you know. So I don't know. Jury's out. I'm not convinced in one race, but over several, yes. What does everyone else think?
Too short of a break to really implement a change.
Yeah.
You've got a week. It's just not going to happen. That's why Mercedes were targeting Australia.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you think like all of the engines are going to be pretty consistent in the next race, or maybe we'll see some variances?
No. Engines are locked in pretty well. So there was a rule change at the beginning of the year regarding the engines. The turbocharged internal combustion engine, the motor generator unit for heat, exhaust, fuel, and oil are now frozen. You cannot touch them. You can't upgrade them unless it's for reliability. And if you upgrade it for reliability, you got to do show and tell, which means you're revealing your secrets to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
The Dutch Grand Prix, there's gonna be a couple other lock-ins for the MG UK, the Energy Store, and the Control Electronics. But you know, the bulk of the engine's frozen now, and that's set till 2026. So Ferrari may have this advantage for a long time. Not only that, they've changed the fuel. It's an E10 fuel this year, and that may have been the cause of Red Bull's troubles. Red Bull hasn't really told us anything. We may find out at the start of the next Grand Prix what they've replaced in the car.
Yeah, I did read something that there's indication and only indication that it's to do with the fuel pump. But it's just someone's theory. I was watching on YouTube about it. I was actually just going to throw a spanner back to the development thing. To all those fans out there, if you're an old school Formula One fan, you'll probably remember back in the day that the grid was made up of such a different bunch of diverse cars. So there weren't the same regulations that there are today that, it needs to be, they look very similar to each other. Good examples are these little guys here. You can see such a difference in the cars. You have one race and different size cars, different size engines, etc. So the reason I'm mentioning this is the commentators keep going on about it, that they're saying that these cars all look so different this year that it's the first year in such a long time that there is so many different concepts on the grid. So that might suggest to me that with different concepts, there might be, they might change their concepts faster, or, they've got more other cars to look at to see if they can steal designs of other cars. So it's a little bit more significant this year than many years, in my opinion. So just throwing that out there.
Cool, thanks, Will. Let's. I think it'd be a good time to talk honorable mentions of this race, right? I feel we brought it up earlier. It's a shame that Mick missed the points, right? It would have been great if both Haas would have made it into the points, but I think we got to shout out our man Bottas. Bottas was sitting at 6, right? I think he finished at 6. I think early in the race to see him, I forgot what was the highest he made it to. But he was there. For a while, I was like, oh man, if this guy finishes ahead of Russell or Hamilton, I'm gonna go nuts, right?
That wouldn't happen. He's still team order.
Yeah. I think he still had the Mercedes radio in his ear. They're like, no, just back up. But I don't know if you can imagine him during qualifying. Traditions, baby. But I do want to. I was excited to see him on his own, right? And I think we can expect some surprises from him this season, for sure. I'm gonna go nuts if somehow he ends up in front of Hamilton in any of these races, even if it's like 10 versus 9, right? I'm like, oh, got out of the shadow. And who else? His first F1 race ever in the points. Chinese driver.
Zhou Guanyu.
Yeah. A big honorable mention to him. Exciting. The race was exciting for so many reasons, right? You had that battle 1, 2, 3, but there were just so many storylines within the top 10 that just forcing me, I'm going to watch every race, right? If it's like this, absolutely. But how about you guys?
Let's hear from Ray. Go, Ray.
Oh, honorable mentions. Well, I mean, Lewis Hamilton, make it into the points. I would consider it. People say it was just kind of lucky, and then honorable mention to Red Bull's reliability for allowing that in the last 2 laps.
They can't blame the engine supplier anymore. They are the engine supplier.
Yeah. But it does remind me. Did anyone else get PTSD? I had to bring this up. I'm sorry, I cut you off. But did anyone else get PTSD when Gasly spun out and his car burst a little bit into flames? So I was like,
oh man,
lap time. I was like, oh yeah. Somehow I thought that Leclerc was going to get, he was going to get fucked, right? I was like, they're going to tighten up the bunch. At the end of this race, Max is going to swoop in. I thought it was coming. I was like shaking. I was like, this better not happen to Charles. But I was shaking.
Charles just did that.
That's going to resonate for a long time. Even in our chats that we have, it's still an ongoing debate about the safety cars and what happens now and different people's ideas. And all this week we've had banter back and forth about that. So, yeah, Gio, that's a really valid point. And I think there are a lot of opinions on how safety cars and things should be managed.
Yeah, I mean, did you want to talk about the FIA rule changes or what the results were from
Right, because they came in right before the race, right? The official. Pete, you want to dive into that?
Yeah, all right. I actually printed off the FIA report from their website. You can access it online. It's a PDF, 7 pages. I had a bit of read of it. The results are final and valid for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. They can't be changed. That's it. Hamilton's not going to get the race win. Sorry, Lewis Hamilton fans. It's over. Drivers, teams, stakeholders all wanted the race to end on the green flag if possible. That was discussed before the race. The race director had too many responsibilities within his role and outside of which Massey took over after Charlie Whiting when he tragically died before the Melbourne Grand Prix in 2019. These roles include but not limited to safety delegate and single-seater sporting director. Human error led to the fact that not all lap cars allowed to unlap themselves at the end of the race. The direct communication between Horner and Wolff to Massey had a negative impact on his decision-making process and on what happened. They've also changed the wording from any lap cars to all. So, those are the key points out of it. If you want to read the full report, jump onto the FIA website and download the PDF and have a read.
But I think so. When I was watching Sky Sports, they mentioned there was not a single sorry on that report or apology for that decision last year. But I don't think there really needed to be an apology because the action that kind of took place afterwards kind of spoke for itself. Like, I think it was obvious there was a mistake made, but it was just too far. It's too big of a race, too big of a, while there was madness that the results ended up, that way. But if they would have overturned it, I feel like it would have been an even bigger conversation.
Well, Will,
exactly.
Will,
Yeah.
I've got a question for you.
Yep.
Hasn't another championship in the past been decided by FIA decisions going back to Prost and Senna?
Oh, don't get me started. Look, the longer you go, the longer you watch Formula One, the more you just have this conclusion to everything, which will end up becoming that's F1. And there is so many politics, so much. You've already sworn on this podcast. I'm going to say that there's so much bullshit that happens in Formula One that someone's going to be pissed off, someone's going to be angry, and if you go for a driver, etc., you're going to say they were robbed, etc. So what Pete's referring to very cunningly is the politics of the 1989 season, and there's a couple of factors in this. First of all is that there was Jean-Marie Balestre, who was the French FIA Formula One president at the time. So he made the rules, and he was French. Very, very key part, he was French. And you have Prost and Senna. They had a McLaren car that absolutely dominated the season. I think they won something like 14 out of 17 races, something ridiculous. So either Prost won the race or Senna won the race. Prost was French and Senna was Brazilian. Pete, we've had this conversation before, but there seems to be a comparison between Prost and Senna and Max and Lewis. So Max Verstappen is the new Ed and Senna. Like, I will be taking this place, and you will get out of my way, or we will go off the track. And he will try and win no matter what. He doesn't know how to go slow, as Martin Brundle mentioned on the weekend.
Also, we do have to mention it was Senna's birthday.
Yes,
on the 21st.
Yep, so. Good point, Gio. Thank you for that. Yep, absolutely. And yes, amazing racer, incredible. Race with his heart. Now you've got Alan Prost, who his nickname was the Professor. He will hold a position for the sake of getting the points rather than make any risks and going off the track. So he was a calculated driver, and he would win championships based on his thinking. So anyway, the new young gun to the team, Ed and Senna. Prost was already established in McLaren. Senna was the young gun, and Senna won the championship the season before. So this year, Prost is like, no, not having this. So 2 races to go. Senna had to win the race. Prost was winning the championship. Senna had to win the race in Japan to stay alive. And then there was just one more race in Australia. They off in the distance. Prost was winning. Senna was chasing all the way. Prost was leading, Senna was chasing. Senna went to overtake Prost in the Suzuka chicane, and Prost pulled over, and they both went off the track. Like, they both collided and went off the track. Prost retired, got out the car and walked off. Senna drove around the track, went to the pits, got his wing replaced, and then came back out, chased down the then leader, which was Alessandro Nannini in a Benetton, and Senna won the race. However, he went back onto the track via an escape road, and Prost ran to the FIA to do something which no one knows about. He ran to the FIA to talk about something, and it was decided after the race that Senna was disqualified because he used the escape road to get back onto the track, which is a complete load of,
The best decision
So
was my decision.
yeah, and that's where Jean-Marie Balestre, the following season, there was a big drivers' meeting and complaints, and Senna was basically continuing bitching about this, this off the track thing. And yeah, that's where the famous, like Pete mentioned, the famous quote that Balestre made is, "The best decision, Ayrton, is my decision." So,
I do remember seeing this in the Senna documentary.
correct.
It was
Yeah. So long story short is that if you're a Prost fan, fantastic. He won the championship because of it. If you're a Senna fan, you'd be absolutely furious because there was no legitimate reason why Senna got disqualified. However, last and final bit, Senna got his own back the following year. Prost left McLaren, saying that I can't race with Ayrton. He's going to kill us. Exactly the same situation, exactly the same race. The following year in Japan, and so Prost with Ferrari, Senna with McLaren. Senna winning leading the championship. First corner, Senna strategically runs into Alan, and I'm careful with what I say here. Strategically ran into Prost, and they both went off the track and both retired. So Senna won the championship. So then they couldn't do anything because if they made any changes of rules, it would contradict the previous year. So, to any F1 fans, this is what we call the golden era of Formula One. This particular time, an absolute rivalry. And after that stunt that Senna did to Prost comments to the media was he was ready to punch Senna.
So, yeah.
And
Will Street with the history, baby.
Oh, that's it's amazing to hear, and that's why. I think after Abu Dhabi happened, when Gio, you said that when you were talking to them, that they were just like, "Oh yeah, this is just like what happened in the past." Don't get too upset. This is F1.
Yeah, in my head, I'm like, the goal. How could this happen in such a big organization? And these guys are like, well,
yeah.
F1's gonna F1, right? That was pretty much their. I was like, okay. So I started doing a little research. I do want to kick it to Pete for one more bit of news. I'll call out. I think the most recent in the news is about the possible addition of a few more races, making 30 total Grand Prix. Do you want to touch on that announcement?
Yeah. So in an interview with Sky Sports, Stefano Domenicali confirmed that there's a lot of interest for additional races, and Liberty Media considering running up to 30 races a year.
And how many are there currently?
23. So it's another 7 races. And
come back to Adelaide. That'd be great.
Yes. Adelaide Street Circuit is amazing.
From the fan perspective, I'm sure. Yes. Add those 30 freaking races. Give us all the F1 possible. But let's put ourselves. Let's put ourselves in the car for a second, right? How much of a toll do you think that would take on drivers? Right, it's a long season. You add more races, there's a little more percentage possibility of accidents and disaster, right? Do you see this? Is this official? Like it's going to happen?
It was just talk.
Okay.
Because in an interview, but because remember, there's a missing race in this year's calendar now. With Russia gone, they're looking to potentially fill it. F1's growing massively popularity. As we've all discussed and discovered, Netflix has helped a massive boom with Formula One in the United States and around the world. I've got a couple other mates out there who've gone into F1 because of Drive to Survive. I'm in group chats with them. It's really helped the sport. And Liberty Media is a business of money. Cash is king, as Seb called it in the Australian 2020 Grand Prix, which didn't happen.
Well, Ray, as former athletes, right? We've played a certain sport in our lifetime. I think we can speak to the exhaustion that happens towards the end of any season of any sport you play, right? And imagine someone telling you, "All right, you just finished game 66 or whatever of your basketball season. We're going to throw about 20 more. Your knees are gone, your head is." It's a lot on the athlete. What do you think?
You're going to need a whole nother year just to change your training up because everything's gauged on your endurance for this set period of time. So then to add like another 20 to 30% more is going to be exhausting for the drivers. I mean, they already lose what, like 8 pounds during an entire race. And then on top of that, the mental focus. So I think, they everyone gets to regroup during that summer break. If they did it, they would have to include another break. And then Formula One would be going almost the entire year round. I mean, which as a fan would not be a problem for me, but as a driver, I think that would be exhausting.
They'd have to incorporate a bench system. Like, hey, we got to bring in reserve drivers. Right. Yeah, they'd have to. 'Cause, like, you get another. That's tough. That'd be as exciting. I'm sure F1 is like, yes, money. Right. Let's make it. Like the American market's picking up because they said the possibility of a Las Vegas course. They mentioned something in Africa too. But my instinct,
I want a New York. I want a New York street course. Give me New York.
Yeah, give me Manhattan.
New York.
Actually, another good point to consider: the mechanics and the various other support staff. They don't get the attention like the drivers do. They don't get the private jets. They're not paid millions of dollars a year. They're already away from their families and friends for how many weeks in a year? And that's something to consider as well. Would they allow a rotation of the staff with that involved? Mm-hmm. What about their mental health and well-being?
Would it increase the budget for the cars too?
Right.
Well, yeah, they could, but then the lesser teams will struggle again because they may not get the sponsorship.
And think of the worldwide logistics increase. And what about driver track familiarization? Like there's the extra amount of simulation work that they've got to concentrate on because every track's different. Because of the amount of time that they have on the track. Think of the time they have off the track, simulating the track and everything.
Oh, I get that, Will. From my vast experience in playing Formula One video games, I know how important it is to get familiar with the tracks. Have I made it past lap one of any Formula One video game? No, but I totally get that, Will.
Learning curve is very steep in those games.
We're approaching the end of our second episode. If Will, you want to take us away with some last thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's my turn this week, isn't it? So. Look, I thought from a closure perspective, let's talk about the next race. So it's on the 28th of March. It's in Saudi Arabia in Jeddah. For those that live in Australia, it's a nightmare race because it's on at 3:30 in the morning. But to you lucky Americans, it's on at 1 p.m. in the afternoon on a lovely Sunday day. So. Look at you guys. But the following race, we get it back in Melbourne in the afternoon over here. So the track itself, it'll be a race under the lights. It is a very challenging circuit. It's very unforgiving, and there are a hell of a lot of blind corners. There was absolute carnage last season at this race. There were red flags, there were safety cars, there were Max and Hamilton fighting it out, and as Hamilton went to reclaim first place because Max had to give it back, they hit each other, and that literally caused fireworks and the wonderful love affair between Christian Horner and Toto Wolff.
This was the stop short? Was that?
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that.
That's the one. So I'm very excited by this race because of all the track itself. It's got so many blind spots. It's going to cause some crashes, so it'll be highly entertaining. So this is a great race as a new Formula One fan. It's a great race to check out. A couple of thoughts. Can Red Bull fix their reliability issues with their own branded powertrain? Can McLaren and Aston Martin bring themselves out of the truck awards at the moment? They need to improve. Can Mercedes improve and get back to their winning ways? And can Ferrari keep up their momentum? As we've mentioned, we already know that because they've got black spoilers. So needless to say, they're going to win the championship. Yeah. And I wanted to finish on one note because I do feel sorry for Max at the moment. He didn't finish the race. So it saddens me to say for Max and the Red Bull team that they have to rely on that old school motor racing cliche. In order to finish first you have to finish.
Beautiful.
Boom. So that concludes our Bahrain debrief. You've been listening to The Paddock, a Formula One podcast for new Formula One fans, coming in hot off Netflix Drive to Survive, coming at you from both New Jersey and Adelaide, South Australia. We love hearing your feedback and your questions, so please feel free to reach out to any of us via the usual social media platforms. As always, it has been a pleasure, and we look forward to chatting again soon on our next podcast. Bye for now.